Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Woods, Executive Director of Alumni Relations at Marist, and a graduate from the class of 1997. And I'd also like to welcome my colleague, Chris Del Giorno, graduate from the class of 1988 and Vice President for College Advancement. You'll see him in a little while. We're very excited to present this webinar to you this evening with George Koutsaftes from the class of 1991. Due to the number of participants, we have muted all lines except for the panelists. Please use the chat option for any technical questions you have for the Marist staff listening in or any general questions. Please do not send private messages to George as he might not see them. Please use the Q&A features for questions that you have for George, and be sure to direct them to me as the host. There are several ways you can view this presentation on a desktop computer or laptop. There are view options at the top center of your screen. Since George will be using slides, you might prefer the side-by-side view. And within side-by-side view, you can select speaker view in the top right corner. And now I'd like to welcome our host. George Koutsaftes graduated from Marist in 1991 with a bachelor's degree in accounting and also has an MBA from Fordham University. He has more than 23 years of investment banking and financial management experience and has been a key player in transactions with over $7 billion in aggregate value. Prior to joining Honeywell, George was a senior level M&A advisor working for Young & Partners, Eureka Capital Markets, and Arthur Andersen Corporate Finance. He started at Honeywell Performance Materials and Technology in 2008 as the Vice President for Business Development and M&A. During that time, George and his team completed 8 transactions, including the largest acquisition ever completed by PMT, a $525 million deal to acquire 70% of Thomas Russell LLC. George then moved into the role of Global Business Director for the refrigerants business in fluorine products, followed by Vice President of Procurement and Trade Compliance. There, he managed over $4 billion of spend for PMT. George is currently president of Honeywell Advanced Materials, a $3 billion business that specializes in developing and manufacturing high-performance fluorine chemistries, polymers, fibers, and high-purity chemicals and metals. George, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Amy. It's great to be here. I'm really proud to be here today to speak with the alumni at Marist College. Firstly, before I begin, I hope everyone and your family, your loved ones are staying safe during the COVID pandemic, and you're following all the safety procedures and protocols to make sure we all stay safe. It's very important. Now to begin, my journey from graduating Marist in 1991 to today was anything but predictable or straightforward. As we go through today, I want to give you an overview of what Honeywell is, who we are, the business that I run, but I'll spend a particular amount of time on my career journey. Then we'll talk about opportunities at Honeywell, and we'll open up to Q&A. But to start, a passion to win, insatiable curiosity, a failure or two, guts, grit, trust in your leadership, courage of your conviction, and empathy. These were the essential ingredients, combined with a vision for our personal and professional future of our family, is what led me to where I am today. Now, everyone on the phone, your journey will be different, but I'm hoping in listening to today's webinar, you might pick off a few ingredients or two that help me be successful that will work for you. And with that, you can create and craft your own journey to success. As we go through today's talk, I'll be planting flags along the way to let you know that was a pivotal decision or a pivotal moment that influenced me and became part of the mosaic of my career journey. If we go to the next page, please. First, I just want to introduce you to who I am personally. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I grew up a fan of Bruce Springsteen, like any self-respecting teen at the time. And my childhood was a generally normal childhood. I grew up in West Orange, New Jersey, a blue-collar town. Played ice hockey, played baseball. I was in the Boy Scouts, became an Eagle Scout. Our church was a large part of our life growing up. And then when I became of age, of course, I walked away from the church, but over time, I began to realize how important it was in our life, and now it's an essential part of my family life. But if there's one thing you look back at my childhood to try to connect any dots to my professional success today, I like to work and I like to have money in my pocket. Started out when I was 12 years old on a snowy day, and I wanted to go shovel snow with one shovel and made enough money to go buy a boombox. If you guys remember what that was all about. By the time I was 18, I carried double bags, caddying. I was a painter. I was a landscaper, and I worked in a screen printing factory, all by the time I was 18. So I graduated high school in '87, and my journey began to Poughkeepsie, New York, to Marist College. And a funny thing happened, which is that what I didn't realize or accidentally realized was that I was bringing myself back to where my grandparents immigrated from Greece in 1930. When they came over to pursue the American dream, they decided to settle in Newburgh, New York, which is where my mom grew up. And I was looking at schools. Marist became top of my list, not because of the particular location, but because of what I thought it had to offer. But it was only fitting that I was continuing the American dream that my grandparents once started in Newburgh, New York, to be only right up the river from them. Today, I'm happily married. My wife her name is Debbie. You see her there in a picture. We have 3 kids, Matthew, Megan, and Philip. And Debbie and I met on the job. I was auditing one of her departments, and which was considered a conflict of interest at the time. We didn't say anything about it. And when her manager ultimately found out after the fact, she was mad, not because of the conflict, but she was hoping to get a better audit report from me. Conflict or not, that was our journey. And then here we are 26 years later, happily married, living in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. Berkeley Heights is 20 minutes due west. Well, by the way, my light's going off here. So there we go. That's all about Honeywell sensors right there. Berkeley Heights, New Jersey is 20 miles due west of Newark Airport. I'm planting a flag right there for you folks. That was a conscious choice I made because I knew I could drive 20 minutes and be anywhere in the world. So let's go to the next page. So there's the basics of my credentials. As you all know, I graduated from Marist with a BS in accounting in 1991. And I went to Fordham University and I graduated in 1998 with an MBA in finance. I was Beta Gamma Sigma at the time, and I was also a president of my class. I'm gonna tell you a short story where I already started to apply customer segmentation and competitive winning. When I ran for president of my class, there are 2 campuses at the time, the Westchester campus and the main campus, which was Lincoln Center, and that's where I was attending school. I knew then that the Lincoln Center campus election would be hotly contested and that my competitor probably had an edge over me because he had been in the school longer than I had. He knew more people. But nobody was paying attention to Westchester. So I picked up my bag and one day I went up to Westchester and I canvassed for votes and I got them all. And as a result of that, I won the election, became president of the class. My competitor laughed at that after the fact and realized that was a smart thing to do, but I made him my vice president. Next thing is I'm Six Sigma Green Belt certified. I don't know how many of you out there are Six Sigma trained. Prior to joining Honeywell, I only knew about Six Sigma from what I read in books, and that was about it. And I joined as a banker, having been a banker over 10 years at the time, wondering what the heck would Green Belt Six Sigma training do for me? I was transformed. And I realized that any function is a process. And any process can be measured and broken down to discrete activities. And when you can do that and you can measure those activities, you get more predictable outcomes. I came back to my office in Morris Plains, transformed from that training, and I started dissecting our M&A process and essentially helped recreate what we now have today as best-in-class M&A process in all of Honeywell. Back in 2012, pivoting from all that learning, we were the first business overall to use Salesforce.com. Over 8 years ago, we used Salesforce.com in my M&A team to manage our process. So it's these sorts of things that I was learning. Another flag I'm planting, right? You're learning skills along the way. I also got licensed as a broker dealer, earned my Series 7 and 63 licenses when I was with Arthur Andersen Corporate Finance. So those are the particulars. Let's go on to the next page, please. Now I want to tell you a little bit about Honeywell. Next page, please. Honeywell is a $40 billion revenue business, globally, of course, 110,000 employees. You can see the data on the chart there. But what do? We're focused on making the world safer, cleaner, and more productive. We do this through leading solutions in aerospace, building solutions, warehouse automation, refinery and petrochemical plant solutions, semiconductor. We also provide solutions to make soldiers and first responders safe. We also help make the biotech and pharma industry be more productive. You can see we're arranged in 4 business groups. I mentioned the aerospace business. Today, our business provides over 80% of the content you might find in any commercial or defense jet today. Our technology has evolved over time. And with that evolution, we're providing connected applications to flight avionics, making sure that planes can fly more efficiently with routes, can land more efficiently and safely, and our customers can monitor their planes while in the air to detect any changes in the performance of the equipment so they can provide real-time maintenance on the ground. And with the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, we recently innovated a UV-based sanitizing solution that can clean airplanes in less than 10 minutes. It's a robotic-based solution. We've launched it recently. Really proud of what we're being able to do to eventually, when everybody goes back to flying, make flying safer in a post-COVID world. Our building solutions business provides everything you might imagine a building has to control, whether it's the temperature, whether it's the air quality, whether it's the lighting, everything around making a building, in safety too, security solutions. It's everything around making a building safer, more secure, more efficient. And we're also doing this through connected devices, software automation, and we now have launched a healthy building solution, which today will monitor the indoor air quality, occupant flow, personal protection equipment analytics, thermal screening, and social distancing. This is the power that we have at Honeywell, which is we can connect the physical world to the software world, so our software and intelligence, and create better outcomes for our customers and their customers. Safety and productivity solutions. It's a leading provider of warehouse automation, industrial solutions industrial PPE solutions for frontline workers, as well as industrial workers, as well as gas detection solutions. In fact, when the pandemic hit, we increased our production of N95 masks by an order of magnitude to meet the significantly growing demand that was out there in the marketplace. Performance materials and technologies, which is where the red box is around, that's the division that I'm in. If we can go to the next slide, I'll talk more about it there. So this is a almost $11 billion business segment, very profitable margin segment. 30% of our employees are technology-based engineers or technologists. We're broken into 3 businesses: Honeywell UOP, you see there on the left bottom, Honeywell Process Solutions, and Advanced Materials, and that's the business that I run. Honeywell UOP is a leading designer of refinery and petrochemical plants. Think of them as architects. Whenever Exxon, Chevron, or any other major oil company needs to revamp the refineries or add more production capacity, they use our designs to build them. And then once they build them, they use our catalysts to make them run effectively day in, day out. So it's a razor blade model. Today or tomorrow, when you jump in your car and you press the button to start it, don't turn the key anymore, right? Press the button. 60% of that time, it's being powered by fuel made by UOP. Honeywell Process Solutions. They're the world leader in providing process technology to control industrial plants. You've probably seen main boardrooms in movies or pictures where people are looking at large monitors controlling refineries or petrochemical plants. Those are our products. They're powered by software. They're powered by edge devices in the refineries and in the petrochemical plants that are measuring conditions, measuring performance of units. And we use this information, we provide it to our customers real time so they can get better yields, better outputs, and less downtime. And today, with the coronavirus outbreak, we've innovated a remote monitoring solution. So now we've taken this same technology, we put it into the hands of our operators, our customers' operators who now are working from home or working from remote locations to be COVID safe and still getting the same plant monitoring and performance outcomes they would have had if they were in the control room at the plant site. So we're really proud of those offerings. Now let's go to the next page and I'll talk about advanced materials. So advanced materials, we provide solutions that make the world safer through our advanced fiber solutions that protect soldiers and law enforcement professionals. Our Aclar films protect blister pack drug products. If you walk out of a CVS or a Walgreens today, more than 70% of the time you have that blister pack, that's my film on there. We're also making the world cleaner. We've innovated a new generation of refrigerants that are used in your automobile, in your home air conditioning systems, in building air conditioning systems, and supermarket systems that have significantly reduced the CO2 emissions of those units by over 1,000% and has an atmospheric lifetime going from hundreds of years down to days. Those are our Solstice offerings, and they're used, as I mentioned, in your car, home, building, and supermarkets. Also, they're used as foam blowing agents for building installations and appliance installations, providing better thermal insulation performance, which is reducing energy as well. We're also making the world more productive. We're providing this through high purity chemistries to the semiconductor industry to make their products, the way they make their products more productive. And we're also making the pharma and biotech industry research process more productive as well. And we're addressing an aging population by helping to develop new packaging solutions to address the growing need caused by the COVID pandemic, where today we actually have a shortage of glass vials. We have now developed alternate solutions to glass vials that actually perform better and address the glass shortage. It's one of the biggest growth programs in Honeywell. And I'm proud to say that I'll be speaking about that at our next town hall, at the Honeywell corporate-wide town hall. With our climate-based solutions, with all the solutions we've developed today and have launched into the marketplace that have already been adopted, we've saved CO2 emissions the equivalent of removing 40 million cars from the road today. It's a truly tremendous impact we're having on the world, and there's more to come from that. So, we do this through 3 chemistries, fluorine chemistries. We also do it through polyethylene chemistries and high purity chemistries. We're located in 3 main laboratories around the world: Buffalo, New York, Gurgaon in India, and Shanghai, China. And we make all of these things in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Orange, Texas, and also in Washington State and in the northern part of Germany. We also have partnerships with joint ventures in India and China as well. So we have global production to serve our demand in every part of the region, and we're doing main research in key parts of the globe. So that's Honeywell Advanced Materials, and that's the business I'm responsible for. It's a great business. We're having an impact. And when you think about wanting to go to work every day, having a mission, this is a mission. So let's go to the next page. When we decided at Honeywell to evolve our company from being an industrial leader to a software leader, we had to take a look at our behaviors, and we changed them dramatically. And then we now have these 9 behaviors. I won't read them off to you. You can see them on here on the page, and they're on our website. You can easily see them there. When you scan through them, they're different. And it speaks to the fact we have a different culture. And when I tell you it's different than most multinationals you know. I would say we combine best of both worlds with the speed and agility of a software company, but combined with the financial discipline and rigor you would expect of a company like Honeywell to have. We've hired colleagues from other brand name organizations. They do struggle to integrate into our culture because of the speed at which we work and the demanding nature in which we expect people to work at in terms of how we get the most out of our resources. It's forced creativity that makes this company as innovative as it is. Let's go to the next page. So when I started as the president of Advanced Materials at the end of 2017, I felt like we needed to create a guiding principles that was a rally cry for our business, that was the basis by which I wanted everybody to live every day when they came to work. So that when they got up in the morning and they showed up at the office and did their thing, whatever that is, there was no debate about where they should focus on. Focus on the customer first. That's what entrepreneurism is all about. Knowing your customer better than they do, so you can offer them solutions to help make them better. Listening to your customer. You're only as good as your last delivery. Flawless execution is paramount. We had to make sure that our people knew that customer complaints were important. They're actually a gift. When I had my first town hall at the end of 2017, I handed out hundreds of books called Complaints Are a Gift. It's a great read. I encourage you to pick it up yourself. A lot of good leadership in that book about how to engage with customers and how they become innovators with you. Lastly, you can't do it without a foundation of great talent and great culture. We wanted Honeywell Advanced Materials to be the place where everyone at Honeywell wanted to come to grow their career. We wanted to attract and inspire a talented and diverse employee base here at Honeywell. And that's been our mission. At every town hall I have, we repeat these themes. We do reward recognition through these themes. We have repeating theme topics to talk about innovation and growth and talent management at my town halls through these themes. We interact socially on Yammer. That's our internal social way. We interact like people do on Instagram. We use that internally. We interact through Yammer using these themes. One thing about leadership, it's about repeating your messages multiple times, steering the troops in one direction. The repetition of message is critical. Next page. Now on to my career journey. So I chose this imagery of rock climbing, and I picked this up through a mentoring discussion that I was having with someone I was mentoring. So plant a flag. Mentors and mentees can learn from each other. Always, and if it's a good relationship, it will always be that way. I'm a mentor. Yeah, I mentor numerous people today, and I'm continuing to learn from them, and as much as I hope that they're learning from me. Anyway, I was mentoring somebody, and she was discussing her career journey and how she's trying to figure out what to do next. And she said, I feel like I need to climb a rock wall. I said, that's fantastic. You're absolutely correct, because when I look back at my career, that's exactly what happened to me. And I'll walk you through each step of my journey to give you an idea about that and what I learned, how I took the skills with me and went on to the next role, why I made decisions to go down the organization chart, why I took lateral moves, ultimately to get to where I am today. So it all starts in 1991 when I graduated from Marist and interviewed with the Dun & Bradstreet Corporation to be an internal auditor for them. Firstly, a shout out to one of our alum, Denise Ferrin. I remember the night as clear as day when I was at her apartment with her friends, and I was discussing the fact that I was going to New York the next day to interview with Dun & Bradstreet in this particular department. She almost dropped her plate. She said, my brother Cliff used to work there, and he still has friends at that department. So she went into quick action, called her brother called their friends, and when I showed up the next day, they knew I was coming and they were ready to welcome me, and that was a great feeling. And it shows you the importance of networking. Anyhow, I earned the job, but it was interesting. I was one of 13 people in that class, and it was a training program. They put you into different rotations of 6 to 9 months, treasury, accounting, all finance roles, to learn divisional roles, corporate roles, etc., to prepare you to be an internal auditor. That class was comprised of 13 people. I was only one of two that did not come from an Ivy League school. I was intimidated. I looked around and I assumed everyone was smarter than I was. And I figured out the only way I'm going to succeed here is there's one thing I can control, which is my work ethic. I figured if I'm going to lose, I'm not going to lose because I didn't work hard enough. So I went forward, and that's one thing I did, is I just worked my butt off, made sure that the results were there. Interestingly, 1 year later, that was the first of the recessions we've had here in the United States. Layoffs were abound, and layoffs hit our group just as well. And I remember it's like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the bullpen, waiting for my name to be called along with my other colleagues, and never got called. And I was thankful that it wasn't. I realized that the ingredients of success that got me that far, going back to that work ethic point, that I figured I wasn't going to be outworked. All right, well, that's working, George. Keep doing that. It's paying off because you outlasted some of those Ivy League people. So on forward I went. And then I went into go auditing. That was the plan. You go on these rotations, then you go on to audit. And that job was a 75% travel job. I was on the road 9 months out of the year, constant. But I was in really interesting places. And at a young age, it was a good thing to do. I was in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. I was in Japan, in Tokyo. I was in Australia, in Sydney, Frankfurt, Germany, London. I was in Paris, France. All these places, I spent 3-4 months at a time conducting audits at these locations, working with the regional leadership teams. And at a young age, I was afforded an opportunity to become a leader on the site for that audit team. And I built more skills through that. And I also learned how business was being done globally. And I got a great cultural experience. I experienced Mardi Gras in Sao Paulo. That was an experience I'll never forget. I scuba dived in the Great Barrier Reef. I went to Oktoberfest in Munich. All those fun things I was able to do because of this role. And I just came back a different person 6 years later. And then I was ready to go back to business school. Went to Fordham because I recognized at that time my track was to become a CFO in Dun & Bradstreet. And I wasn't interested in that. I learned a lot, gained skills, right? But ultimately, I didn't want to complete the journey to be a CFO. I wanted to be on the front lines making the news, be on the front lines, interacting with customers, interacting with other executives, creating projects, creating initiatives. So when I went back to business school to get my MBA in finance, I decided ultimately what I wanted to do was be an M&A professional and advise companies on doing transactions, because M&A transactions is a form of driving growth. So that's what I decided to do. And I interviewed for multiple companies. I ultimately selected to go to Arthur Andersen Corporate Finance. Their offices were on 6th Avenue. And it was interesting. They had a broker-dealer division within the accounting firm. We had to get Series 7 and Series 63 licensed. It was a NASDAQ broker-dealer. And it was a great platform to be in because you were able to leverage the relationships that Andersen had globally. And it was a well-respected name worldwide for what it did on tax and an audit. We were able to leverage that platform and get client referrals to do M&A work. And we were integrated the offering of the transaction services with the M&A services. It was a great platform. We were a top 5 middle market M&A advisor from that platform. And in 1 year, I was doing a lot of what I would call generalist deals, restaurants, gaming. I did a paint deal, and I was just learning M&A skills. But after that first year, I said, you know what? This isn't differentiating me. 1, 2, I'm not sure what direction it's going to take me. When I was thinking about where I live geographically, remember Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, that is the chemical and pharmaceutical, one of the chemical and pharmaceutical capitals of the world. So client-rich environment. I didn't want to travel a lot, or at least try to minimize my travel. Also, it's a highly technical industries, the chemical and pharmaceutical industries. So I figured to be a good banker, you have to understand what they're doing and understand them well. So I could create a competitive advantage as a banker by understanding the technologies that fits with their strategies, because that's really what differentiates a good M&A idea from a mediocre M&A idea. So I decided to nominate myself to go on the healthcare M&A team at Arthur Andersen. It didn't exist in the New York office. I actually created it at the young age of 29. I actually convinced the managing directors to go hire my own boss. So we hired a managing director out of the San Francisco office to come to the New York office to start the team. And with that individual on board, we then hired somebody else who brought the biotech experience, and off we went. I ended up spending a lot of time in the New Jersey office. That's where the pharmaceutical companies were. That's where all the audit engagements were. I wasn't stupid. I knew where they were. And so therefore, I had an easier commute than going to New York every day. I put myself on the client engagement teams there. So it was all vision-based, strategy-based to get to that role at that time. And we ended up becoming a leader in the space, getting a lot of deals. I started doing a lot of public speaking. We were starting to be looked at as experts in the field. It was a great opportunity. I learned a ton of it. But then one thing happened, Enron. Arthur Andersen was Enron's auditor. And with that came the scandal of how responsible Andersen was for not fulfilling its fiduciary responsibility of doing good audit work for Enron. And on top of all that, there were claims around that documents were being destroyed. And in March of 2002, an indictment by the Department of Justice was unsealed. And within 3 short months, Andersen went bankrupt. It was a dizzying hurricane. One I could never have imagined would have happened. We were all scrambling to figure out what we were going to do, what life was going to look like for us professionally. At that point in time, I had a 2-year-old, and we're thinking about having a second. So personally, we were wondering what we're going to do. Professionally, I was wondering what we're going to do. And in the middle of all that, I have clients screaming at me, asking me, George, how are you going to help me? Are you going to service me? We're in the middle of a project. What's going to happen? So I have clients screaming at me. The home life wondering what's going to happen. Where are we going to, how are we going to make money? And what's my professional life going to be like after the bankruptcy? Well, after thinking about it long and hard, the easy answer I could have taken was to go to another major accounting firm. They were hiring all of us. I could easily have followed some of the partners. They wanted me to come. But I said, you know what? No, I want to do something different. I want to be an entrepreneur. I already did the big company thing, and look what happened. We went bankrupt, right? I want to do something different. So fortunately, the healthcare team and I in New York decided to form a firm called Eureka Capital Markets. And that's where you see there on the screen on the left, July 2002 is when Eureka was formed. We had to quickly figure out what being an entrepreneur meant. That meant go shopping for an office, buying computers, setting up an IT infrastructure, getting ourselves NASDAQ compliant. All these things. Meanwhile, doing the day job of executing client engagements. And in the world of M&A, it's do it now or don't get it done. I worked super long hours, was highly stressful time, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I learned so much from that. I put my own personal equity into the business. At that time, I risked $30,000, a lot of money for me at the time, put it into the business, as did others. But that entrepreneur experience changed me for life. It taught me the value of any job. No job is too small to do. Don't ask your team to do something you wouldn't do yourself. That you want a team, roll up the sleeve, get it done environment, and treat the business that you're in like it's your own business. Everybody that's on my team knows that's how I feel, knows that's how I act. I think Honeywell Advanced Materials is my business. It's because of that experience I got as an entrepreneur. Now, what happened? I was there for 2 years. I led one of the largest biotech bankruptcies in the United States at the time, called Advanced Tissue Sciences. They filed for bankruptcy protection. They were based in La Jolla, California. They raised over $300 million and spent it all, and they only didn't have much in terms of clinical outcomes to prove for it. It did have some technologies. I went in with my team. We did crisis management, helped them conserve cash, helped them figure out if they could build a plan for reorganization, a little education about bankruptcy if you haven't done this before. You can file Chapter 7 or Chapter 11. Chapter 7 is liquidation, Chapter 11 is reorganization. So they were having that debate. Should they sell off the assets, Chapter 7, or should they do Chapter 11 reorganization? So after going through the business and looking at their business plan and strategies, the assets they had, how they would make money, we ultimately determined and recommended, and the board agreed that they should do a liquidation of the company. And we led that liquidation. It was a great learning experience for me. I gained a lot of legal experience in having worked on that project. And I carry a lot of that with me today, as well as a lot of the M&A experience I have. What people don't fully appreciate when you're an M&A advisor, you do get knee deep in the M&A contracts. And you learn a lot about legalese and legal terms and how to negotiate that. And I'm planting a flag because that became an important element of what ultimately helped me succeed in Honeywell. So, but after 2 years, I wanted to do more deals in the chemical space. I was finding I was getting more out of it. I was enjoying it more. There was more challenges in terms of assets and environmental liabilities and working capital. And there's just more things to do in an M&A deal in the chemical industry. However, the managing director who I worked with directly didn't want to go in that direction. And frankly, we just had a meeting of the minds that it wasn't working anymore. And to be honest with you guys, it was a learning experience for me because I think I went, I got a little too big for my britches in terms of where I thought I was career-wise, what I thought I can deliver. But ultimately, it worked out for the best. I ended up leaving Eureka in June of 2004. At that time, my dad was very sick with cancer, and it allowed me the time that I needed to spend with him, with my mother. He was at Sloan Kettering here in New York, and I was driving in every day with my mom to see my father. And it was a blessing to have taken that break to spend my time with my father. And then in September of that year, my son was born. And I brought a video in the week after my son was born to show my dad on a Saturday. And on that Sunday, he started shutting down. He died on Monday. So he was hanging on to see the birth of my third son, Philip. So things happen for a reason, folks. And I want you to remember that. When things are bad, while they may be at the point in time, just remember there's things happen due for a reason. You have to look how to connect the dots. And for me, it was a fortunate opportunity to spend time with my family, recalibrate, which I did. And it really kind of regalvanized myself to join a new firm at the end of that year called Young & Partners. He wanted me for my biotech experience, and I wanted to join him because of his chemical industry experience. I knew that he had a Rolodex of most of the top CEOs in the chemical industry, and I wanted that. So I joined the firm, and we did deals. We did a lot of deals, hundreds, millions in size, and it was a great experience. And again, we were an entrepreneur. I won the mandates. I helped doing the models. I helped write the contracts. I helped the negotiations. It was a full-on experience. The one thing I wasn't getting was the front-end strategy development by the company, our customer, or the back-end integration experience, actually realizing the value. When the deal is closed, that's just the beginning. The real money is made on the integration, and I wasn't seeing that either. So I was learning a lot. I was building a huge Rolodex. My name was getting out there, but I was realizing the entrepreneurial experience that I got at Eureka Capital, the entrepreneurial experience I got at Young & Partners, building my own practice, working with the head partner of the firm to do that. But I wasn't getting the front end business strategy and the integration with the business aspect of M&A. Plus also, in meeting all these CEOs, it was live training for how to be a leader. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to be a business leader. I want to run a business. I decided that, and I knew that working with these companies, eventually a break would come my way if I did all the right things, and I would be able to join a leading company for which I can learn to be a business leader, become a business, run a business. And lo and behold, Honeywell called. They were on the other side of a transaction that I did. In fact, our current CFO of Honeywell today was a CFO of that business that was the potential buyer. They met me. They liked how I engaged with them as the seller, representing the seller, and they were the buyer. And when the M&A job opened up for PMT, I got a phone call whether I was interested in the role. It was an easy decision for me to make. It was absolutely yes. I interviewed for the role, and I joined in July of 2008. So you should look at the last three roles, the Arthur Andersen role, the Eureka Capital role, the Young & Partners role. Those were all lateral moves. I was building skills, entrepreneurial skills, M&A skills, financial skills. I could rip apart a business plan, understand strategies and go-to-market models, levers on how to make money in different businesses and different business models. These are all skill building experiences, and I knew that. So I was fine kind of being lateral for about 10 years because I was building. It all started to come together when I got the Honeywell M&A job in July of 2008. The business president at the time, Andreas Kramvis, was a super smart individual. And sitting next to him at his leadership meetings for almost 4 years was another MBA school classroom that was invaluable to me. And it was, I was surrounded by smart people, great teams, and a corporate mission that I was proud to be part of, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks. So we ultimately did a bunch of deals, as mentioned, as Amy mentioned in the opening note, which was, and also the largest deal that PMT did ever under my leadership, and I'm really proud of that. The other thing I'm proud of is that we got ourselves into the shale gas space with that transaction. Our UOP business, which I talked about earlier, was not in the shale gas space, which was booming at that time in 2012. We got technology and a business position to get in there. So I learned a lot about the oil and gas space through that and the shale gas segment. But in order to become a business leader, I knew how to take a step down the organization chart, which is the next role I took, which is the global business director for the refrigerants business. So I went from being on the leadership team, VP level, to a director level in November of 2013. Why did I do that? It was all about skill building. I wanted to learn how to run a business. And I didn't want to take on a role that was too big for me, where I had a risk of failing, but big enough where I would learn, but also where a role that would leverage my skills. And that was something that I give my previous manager a lot of credit for. He was very intentional of finding the right business for me, and he even said it. So I want to find the right role for you, George. It's got to be big enough for you, but also a role where we can leverage your skills. That refrigerants business was that role. Why? A couple of things. One is we were on the cusp of launching these Solstice low global warming products I mentioned earlier. And we were about to build a plant and spend $300 million in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We needed to go sign up long-term contracts with automotive customers worth over $3 billion. And he knew my M&A experience, my negotiation experience, my legal experience, I could get that done. And indeed I did. We signed up over $3 billion of long-term contracts with major OEMs that provide the funding we need to build a first-of-a-kind production plant in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to make low global warming refrigerant products. It's an achievement I'm quite proud of. And then along the way, I learned how to do new product innovation. I learned how to run a supply, inventory, and ops planning, which is critical in an organization like this. I learned the importance of talent and how to organize talent to align with their strategies. We actually changed the strategy and how we faced the supermarkets back in 2014 that I literally was just talking about today in one of our leadership's meeting when I was reporting up, that we built a business from zero to over $100 million because we changed our organization strategy. So I gained a lot of experience, and from that, the leadership of Honeywell was beginning to notice that no matter what role they could put me in, I was showing an ability to learn, ability to work with agility, ability to work with people, And so they came to me and said, we want you to run procurement. And I literally said, you have to be nuts. I never ran procurement in my life. I know nothing about procurement. I'm aware of it. I know how it impacts my business, but I thought they were crazy. And I said, also, look at the growth programs we have in my business now. It's going to deliver X hundred millions of dollars to the Honeywell shareholder. I actually ended up meeting with the head of HR with Honeywell about this role, as well as the CEO of Honeywell about this role. And I asked both of them two questions. How is this going to help my career? And how is the Honeywell shareholder better off? And they both had they both had very good answers for me. I said, okay, fair enough. Game on, let's do it. I felt like I was taking a little career risk here because I didn't know anything about the procurement process or function or how it worked, but here we go. But sure enough, trust in my leadership, trust in the wisdom of how they were steering me and getting me ready for bigger roles. They had the right move in mind. What this role allowed me to do was run a bigger organization than I ever ran before. I was now managing 400 people. I was responsible for a spend of $4 billion dispersed amongst 100 plants globally. What I learned from that role is that where previously I could have gotten by with my own personal influence on key initiatives, I now needed to succeed directly through people and through process. And it's important when you run a global, large organization that you have to be able to do that. And they wanted to see if I could do that and succeed in that with the procurement role. And I did. I was able to innovate a new procurement process where we were able to connect the business products and our cost of materials to the pricing we were getting from the raw materials in the marketplaces, so that when we saw inflation headwinds coming, we can pass them through really quickly. This process got adopted across all of Honeywell. I presented to the CEO and his leadership team about this new process. It became a standard. It saved our business over $100 million because inflation was coming. So from that, I gained the confidence of the leadership team to take another step rung up the chart, where I became now the president of Advanced Materials. This was a big challenge personally and culturally. This was two different businesses that they historically have been separate, but decided to put together. Within Honeywell, there were two cultures they were putting together. I ran one of the businesses, but not all of them. So I needed to create a common culture in a way to get everybody fit and feel like they had one mission in the R&D function, the integrated supply chain function, everywhere. And that's part of the reason why I developed those guiding principles. Also, we had to reinvigorate innovation. And I'm proud to tell you, 2 years from then to now, we have one of the largest growth programs in all of Honeywell, for which we'll be speaking about at our next town hall. And we did that in 2 years. So we had to reinvigorate innovation. And to do all of that, I made it a mission and a goal of ours to build out our talent base, improve the diversity of our team. And I'm proud to say that I have the highest concentration of female leaders in my business as compared to the other businesses in our division. So focus on leadership, focus on building top diverse talent as the foundation, driven by great processes to innovate, to deliver to our customers every day flawlessly, to take their complaints and view them as a gift, and to be entrepreneurs and listen to our customers every day is what are key ingredients that make this business successful. So, in summary, if you think about this career path, and I were to summarize it in a few ways, one is I had a vision for where I wanted to be ultimately. I wanted to differentiate myself. Thus, that led me to the chemicals and pharmaceuticals industry. I wanted to do that in an area that was close to my geography. I wanted to do that. I realized that taking risks and taking stretch roles were important to develop. Building skills and taking lateral moves are equally important. Don't be a rush to go to the next level if you feel like you have a skills deficit. Trust your leadership. They're looking out for you to develop you. Have an insatiable thirst for knowledge and learning. You know, one thing I failed to mention to you that I want to say now, when I was in that healthcare corporate finance business that we created at Arthur Andersen, I knew nothing about biotech. I knew nothing about pharma. So what did I do? I enrolled myself at a 5-day course at the University of Washington in Seattle that was designed for business people like me to learn about the basics of biotech and pharmaceuticals. I actually had to wore a lab coat, did electronic gel phoresis, I did pipetting, and I have a book on my bookshelf called The Cartoon Guide to Genetics, and my reading continued from there. So you need to have an insatiable thirst for knowledge and learning. Be inspired by the people that are working with you. If you're not, you're going to suffer. Have a passion for the mission that you're in. Those are the things I like to summarize about this career journey. Now, let's go on to roles at Honeywell, and I'll take your questions. Every year we hire about 1,000 new undergraduates globally. 70% of them come from STEM educations. We're a technology-led organization. If you want to remember one thing about Honeywell, we're a technology organization. We lead with that, and our key people are technologists and engineers. We have a number of early career programs, and if we flip the page, I'll talk about a couple of them. Next page, please. There you go. So one on the left is an early career rotational program called ESERP, which is for our integrated supply chain team. These are engineers we hire out of undergraduate. They go on 3 12 to 18 month rotations. We put them at different plants, different engineering roles, safety, quality, things like that. These are chemical and mechanical engineering people. And we put them at our sites. We put them in Baton Rouge, we put them in Virginia, we put them in Washington. So they get on the job, real world experience with these rotational roles. And the ultimate goal is to rotate them into a full-time role. Future Finance Leader Program. It's a 5-year rotational program for undergrad students. They do 3 18-month rotations. They will go into diverse geographies, diverse businesses, diverse functions. They'll create a network of close to 130 people that they're going to be in a cohort with, which is an important network as you go on in your roles and your career development. You get mentorship out of it. This is a leadership program that was similar to the one I had at Dun & Bradstreet when I first started. And then a similar program is an HR Pathways program. It's a 3 18-month rotational program. This one's a graduate level. So where the finance one was undergrad, this is a graduate level one. And again, provides mentorship, gives people diverse HR roles, talent management, organization design, also into recruiting, comp and ben, all these different functions in HR. They will rotate in and out as well as different businesses. So it's a great opportunity. So we have these and other early career programs that you can find out about on Honeywell.com. Next page. This just kind of gives you an idea of the global opportunities that are available at Honeywell today. You can go to careers@honeywell.com. I'll let you know that there are roughly 70 roles right now that are open in the tri-state area across Honeywell, and about 18 roles that are open in the PMT business, which is what I'm part of in the tri-state area. In fact, I'm not sure if this role is in there or not, but there is one role I'm actually recruiting for in my business today. I'm looking for a global sales director for one of my business. So if you yourself or you know somebody that's an alum that has the requisite skill sets, just look me up and I'll make sure we get you to the right people. So with that, I gave you a lot there to think about, but perhaps we can open the floor, Amy, to Q&A.
Okay. Making sure you can see me. Thank you. Yes, you actually touched upon a few that were submitted in advance. I know some of them were very specific, but I can start with one. I know you mentioned mentorship a little bit in your presentation, but was there any specific advice that you received during your career that was very helpful to you?
Yeah, of course, there's probably a few things that I would point to, but the one that was probably most profoundly impactful to me wasn't through a mentorship, but it was through a leadership development program opportunity I had at Honeywell. I was in what is called their executive development program. Myself and 20 cohorts of mine, we had three 2-week training courses throughout the year, and they would bring us around to different locations. And in this particular situation, we went down to our Washington, D.C. office, which is where our government relations function is centered. And they brought in a few people from the Beltway to come talk to us. And the one individual that came to talk to us, his name is Ken Duberstein. He was President Reagan's chief of staff for a year. And the piece of advice that he gave us is he asked it as a question. He says, are you an inbox person or an outbox person? And I'll pause to let you think about that. When I understood the question, what he meant was when you get in the office and you're going about your day, are you focused on doing everybody else's agenda or doing your agenda? And that learning was simple for me because one of the things that I thought was a good thing to do was make sure I made my boss look great. So whenever I walked in the office, I felt like anything I was doing was, if he or she was asking me to do that, I would do that, and that would be my priority. Funny thing happened when I was at Arthur Andersen in that role. One of my managers gave me a lower rating on one of my objectives. He said, well, you didn't get it done. And I reflected on it and said, geez, damn, I did everything for this person the whole year. I went over and above, answered all the emails, stayed late to do meetings, everything he asked me to do. But then I realized those goals are important. And he may not realize that he's not even focusing on those goals. So I have to make sure I'm taking care of my agenda before I take care of others' agendas. It's a simple thing, but I'm telling you, it's powerful. So try this out. When you go in the office, when you look at your emails, triage them. Put those aside that are not on your agenda. Handle your stuff first. Send out your emails first. Get people doing your stuff that you have to get done. Then answer emails.
The inbox is scary in the morning, especially since we're all digital right now.
Indeed it is.
So this one question, you mentioned you went at one point from, I think you were VP down to a director position.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if this is related to that, similar, but have you made a career transition that caused you to take a pay cut or demotion, and how did you know it was worth it?
Okay, so in my example, where I took a pay cut actually was going from Eureka Capital Markets to Young and Partners. And there I was making less money on a salary basis for the opportunity to make more on a success fee basis. It was a risk. And I did that because I felt like, I was gonna get a learning opportunity I needed, which is to build the expertise and skills in the Rolodex in the chemical industry that I didn't have yet. So I was investing in myself. A and B, I was investing in myself and betting on myself that if we did the right work, we would win. Now I'll give you one story around that. So we took on a client, a biotech company located in New England, which I won the mandate for, to do buy-side work, where we were helping them find M&A targets to go buy. And the way M&A contracts work is that if you show them ideas and they decide not to pursue those ideas as acquisitions, then they terminate the agreement. You have what's called a tail provision. So 12 months after that termination, if they buy somebody that was on your list, they owe you a fee. Long story short, the contract was terminated on good terms. They were happy with us. We were happy with them. You wouldn't believe it. I'm reading the papers one day, and they announced they were buying a company that we introduced to them. I bring this to my boss, and I said, you're not going to believe this. I said, they're going to be nuts if they try to close this deal. They're going to owe us money. Sure enough, they closed it within the window of the tail provision. They didn't even pay attention to that. They could have closed one day later, had a better argument, and they didn't. And anyway, we went to court, and I had the smoking gun email that won us $1 million. So I took a bet on myself. I took a pay cut to learn, and it ended up paying off. So I think you have to look at the situation and understand what is it going to do for you, and could it propel you and accelerate you? And for me, that role accelerated me because it got me to Honeywell, where I wanted to be. And after that, it's been like a rocket ship for me, to be honest with you. So I had 10 years of lateral roles, or taking backwards roles and taking pay cuts, ultimately to get to the role I knew was going to propel me to the role I am now.
Okay, I have one from specifically, she says, I'm a female 29-year-old Marist grad working in polymer sales. The reason I mention this is because I find it challenging to connect at times due to age and gender. Any recommendations on trying to connect better with individuals who have 20 added years of experience in the polymer molding world?
Well, I can speak for our own experience here in advanced materials. We completely transformed our selling process to digital selling. We made it a requirement, right? We made it a requirement that our sellers were connecting with their customers digitally at least 3 to 4 times a week, if not more. I set minimums, and I was watching this on Salesforce.com. So in the business that we're in, we're connected digitally, and our people are connected digitally. Our customers are connected digitally. So you may unfortunately perhaps be at a company that may not be as forward thinking as that, and you may want to look for companies that are using technology progressively to connect with their customers, connect and network. I mean, we're on LinkedIn. We're posting all the time. I encourage you to go on LinkedIn and look up advanced materials and see how many posts come every day from my business on LinkedIn. We're connecting with people. So it just may be, unfortunately, the company you're with, but geez, if you're not connecting through social media, you're not engaging.
This one is, how can I get my resume noticed when pursuing a corporate finance job without any corporate finance experience? I'm working as a personal financial analyst in wealth management, but struggle to make it to the interview stage with no direct experience.
Well, that's a tough job to break through. I think from where I understand you are doing wealth management to going to corporate finance. I think the way I would approach it if I was in your situation is that sell your learning capability. Show what you've learned in the roles that you've had up to this point, that when you went from role 1 to role 2, what did you learn that you didn't know before? How quickly you learned, how you applied it. Again, remember one of the key points I made about the insatiable desire to learn. I ask an interview question almost faithfully, and I ask people to describe themselves in one word. And if people say they're a learner, and I look back at how they answered their questions, those are dead ring hires for me, right? Because most roles I'm hiring for, I may not be looking for direct relatable experience. Maybe looking for somebody that I want to leverage the prior experience that they have that they could bring to our business, right? So my advice to you is show that you're a learner, demonstrate that. The other thing you have to show is results. Hey, I went into this job and I delivered these results because of what I did and what I influenced, right? Those are the 2 biggest things I think you have to sell on to convince somebody, and your work ethic too, frankly, because someone's going to have to believe that you're going to work extra hours, stay in the office, take extra classes, do what you need to do to learn those skills to catch up. So the work ethic you have to convince them of. So how you demonstrate that in your prior roles, how you demonstrate you learned and apply those learning in prior roles, and the results that you achieved. Probably the best shot for anybody transitioning from a role to a completely different role.
I think that actually answers another question that came in about selling your abilities to decision makers. So that's extremely helpful. We're going to go down a more fun and lighthearted route. I think this is from somebody you know, because they happen to be from the class of 91. They want to know what your fondest memory is from Marist. And did your experience there help prepare you for success in life? And who was your favorite ex-classmate?
Well, my favorite ex-classmate was Dan Bowman.
No.
Hey, Dan. Great to hear from you, bud. My experience at Marist, I look at most fondly. I learned, yes, I gained learning experience, but it was the personal experience and the connections I made through the years, through that time there, that I keep with me today, that I treasure. And we had some of the best times together, learning together, hanging out together, learning about life together, frankly. And that's part of the Jesuit experience, you know. And no surprise to Dan and my 91 colleagues, freshman year was an adjustment process for all of us. We wanted to have a good time, and sometimes maybe too much. And I was on the teetering of being on probation. And Terrence Micus, who was my advisor at the time, pulled me aside one day and said, "Get your S together. Your parents are spending a lot of money to send you here. And by the way, there's pretty girls at the library too." It was great advice. He was right on all accounts, on all accounts. And it's that Jesuit sort of teaching that I brought with me, which is why I went to Fordham for business school. I wanted that foundational ethics and values in the curriculum of what we were learning every day, and the camaraderie of doing good for people, doing good for the community. We did some fun things together, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
You just recited the Marist Brothers motto. Very nice. We have I think we'll do this last one. It's already 10 after 7, but this is a good one. What do you think is the #1 skill that has helped you achieve personal success?
Persistence. Don't ever give up. Just keep fighting, 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 fighting. I had some dark days. I won't lie to you. I was wondering if I was going in the right direction. But I kept working. And I kept working. And it paid off. Be persistent. Be gritty.
Thank you. Thanks so much. This was wonderful. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to join us. Hi, Chris. I see you've joined us.
How are you, Amy? George, that was a phenomenal presentation, and just wanted to take a moment to thank you so much on behalf of the college for sharing your expertise and valuable perspectives tonight with fellow alumni. I have to say, Dan Bauman's question was probably the most enjoyable of the evening, although there were a lot of really thoughtful and insightful questions. And, you know, you really shared a lot of wonderful personal stories about your journey. And I think, you know, we're all as alumni excited to see what comes next for you at Honeywell and beyond, George. And we're going to follow your continued progress very closely and with a great deal of enthusiasm. I also want to mention that George is going to be sharing his talents with our students as well in a few weeks. So we're very much looking forward to that. And I want to thank Amy Woods and Dee Dee also for helping with all the logistics for this evening's program. And Amy has done an incredible job really cultivating a very impressive list of virtual programs since we went into quarantine back in March. And I want to strongly encourage everyone who has the opportunity to take advantage of those programs. And many of them are archived on our Marist Connect website. So if you have an opportunity to check those out, hopefully George's presentation will be there within a few weeks as well. And that you'll find that there'll be incredible resources for you and very valuable. So George, thank you again for an incredibly vibrant, exciting, dynamic presentation. And we hope that everybody enjoyed this evening, and we look forward to seeing you, George, in a few weeks again with our students. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it. It was an honor to speak to the alumni, and I'm here for any of the alumni to reach out to and connect if you have any questions.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone. And yeah, let us know in the alumni office if you have any other questions for George. I will get them to him. And keep checking the Marist Alumni website for more events. And as long as we have your email address, you will receive our events newsletter as well, so you can hear about what's coming up. But have a great night, everyone.